The following is an open letter to my family of origin. On the 28th of September, Rochelle and Micah Hanks are scheduled to lose their God-given parental rights of their beloved daughter Grace and Elizabeth Hanks. I am writing to inform you of the events that will take place once this gross miscarriage of justice takes place. A defamation and slander lawsuit will be filed against Carla J. Hanks and Catherine Baker. An investigation will uncover crimes going back over 50 years of human trafficking and many other crimes, including defrauding a financial institution, theft, falsifying financial documents, reporting false information to law enforcement, conspiracy of all kinds, kidnapping, human trafficking, and abuse of children, and the list goes on. There will undoubtedly be more criminals arrested as they collect all the records of any and everyone that you've ever been in contact with. Authorities will quickly discover that you are just the tip of the iceberg. Anderson Farms will yield a harvest of crimes spanning the entire country. Authorities hunting TNT will quickly and easily uncover your attempts to hide monies and properties through TNT hunting, and all the clever ways to spell the names or rearrange the order of words that Andy Vandekar, or adjusting the date of your birth as if it qualify you more or less. You still can't mind your business and make it your business to know and take whatever you decide. You can reasonably make believe you own it, or set up a group and make your underling the leader. We're 2 or 3, it's time to be sisters. We're family for a reason. There's power in numbers, right guys? We can do this. Now I'm a cheerful leader. The Lord will deliver this enemy into our hands. As you attempt to hide your crimes, the mail fraud that you have committed will serve as a skeleton revealing the meat, and in your case the fat crimes you've committed. A bright light will shine upon your history, and the sexual molestation and statutory rape of your sibling by your friend Colleen's ex-husband will receive proper recognition as a crime. Then special investigators will spend the following years investigating the many children, now adults, that were and are still being sexually abused out in the middle of the desert, 100 miles from any kind of help. The religious cult that has nothing to hide, but has peculiarly isolated itself from the world. Hours away from modern society, where babies getting their diapers changed reveal the abuse that has been done to them, and nobody does anything to help them. Where men have a pattern of sexual misconduct with children, and those children are shamed and punished for the rest of their lives in passive-aggressive ways, just like what you've done to your sisters, keeping them broken and confused and never out of reach of your Levitical hand of God. Your midwife, low life, communal living, where you spent half your life learning and manipulating the minds of little children, breaking covenant to start your own cult on the opposite side of the country, where you and your coven of witches and evil bitches covertly shut down every Holy Spirit-filled church in southern Illinois, creating a black hole of death smack dab in the heart of the Bible Belt, where suicide and early death is preferred to small-town Christian living, where moms rage at their children instead of loving them. Instead of hugging them around the neck, they hold them up off the ground by their throat, up against the wall, until they turn blue, and you and your ilk gang stalk any of them who dare to escape. The systematic and routine where you destroy those that leave the faith reveals a pattern on the record for the record, and soon you'll be asked if you recall each telephone report that you gave and each file and accusation you made. Your handbook to train up a child, authored by the swine Michael and Debbie Pearl, where you learned to set up and frame innocent people and make it stick. Hit with a stick in the leg or in the face, wherever you see fit. Children left broken and bruised to befriend and console themselves with the blanket you used to set up. Catch them on and punish them for attempting to crawl away from. Fast forward 15 years and you confine them with blanket statements, accusations and DCFS investigations. Surprise visits from extended family members with the evidence to plant and put you away with. The abuse never ending, and it's not abuse unless you say it is. What are the odds? Did you have a hand in what happened to Chance and him finding a new home with the Pipericist? What are the chances that all these family members of yours with thriving little families abruptly lose all of what they work towards? We're all supposed to believe they had huge drug problems and all of a sudden lose their children and their job. Their entire life is gone and you're their next of kin. Over and over the same tragic scenario persists. Your mum and dad stop by to check in on your brother, your sister, your niece, your nephew, your son, or anyone else that unbeknownst to them you've initiated a secret family feud against. Constantly comparing and competing against innocent people who have no idea you're in competition with until they're being sentenced to prison, or they're being laid to rest in their coffin. Look how much property and how well off you all of a sudden seem to be. I guess being an old, bitter hag adds up, and your judgmental, pretentious, holier-than-thou attitude finally pays out with dividends. Or did you set up and steal the life and fortune of yet another black sheep, no good friend, cousin, sister, child, that you coincidentally have your name and their mailing address listed and mail forwarding to your lair? And how is it I've lived in the same house as you until I was able to escape, yet it appears online you've resided at mine? You have only lived in 2 different places in the last 20 years, your parents' house and your trailer, but have 9 different addresses listed. Where did you guys get all that money to build Johnny's house again? Aunt Mary filed an elder abuse claim believing your parents were trying to steal her money. Her son, oddly enough, had the exact same thing happen as Shelley and me, a surprise visit from Janet and Leonard Anderson, the good Samaritans that show up and leave right before the emergency responders arrive on the scene. Police believing the outlandish claims that are so convincing because your group has practiced and your teamwork is fantastic and you're unified in your stories and you all lie better than you can tell the truth, and it doesn't have to be a lie, because if you say what you've rehearsed at the right time, the proof of what you say will have arrived and you'll be thanked for doing your part as a concerned citizen. Back in the Boys in Blue, the sheriff's department convinced they were responding to a hostage situation and the suspect is not police friendly, advised to make sure to wear bulletproof vest if you go to that house. The sheriff's department sent all their available officers, over 40 members, standing outside the home after waiting outside the home in unmarked cars and intercepting the suspect as he took the trash down the driveway to the curb. At 11 p.m. the suspect opens the roll-up door of his garage and begins rolling his trash can down to the street, wearing nothing but a pair of basketball shorts. A black truck parked on the side of the road all of a sudden charges the suspect. The suspect, noticing the truck barreling towards him, reacts, jumping out of the way while holding onto the trash can, using it to shield himself from a direct hit from the truck. Officers on foot run up from behind the suspect and tackle him in his front yard. Unaware of what is happening, the suspect begins yelling at his attackers that they are in so much trouble, yelling that they won't get away with this. An officer runs up from behind the suspect while he is being held by each arm and punches him in the left eye and yells, "Stop resisting." The suspect looks the officer in the eye and says, "How am I supposed to know you're police? You have camouflaged on." Looking around, he says, "You are in unmarked units with no flashing lights." The sheriff's department beat up the homeowner in his front yard. The suspect asked to speak to the sheriff. The officer on his right arm said, "The sheriff is out of town tonight." "Then I want to talk to the judge." "You can't do this. He's out of town too." "Where's your search warrant?" "We don't need one. You're being charged with resisting arrest." "What am I being arrested for?" "We don't know yet." The officers then began smashing in the front door of the home, guns drawn and ready to kill a gang of bikers. They gain entry to the home yelling, "Sheriff's department, open up." The only closed door on the first floor is the master bedroom. They use the breacher to smash in the bedroom door, exploding into 4 pieces, flying off the hinges. The pieces of the door fly across the room, narrowly missing a terrified little girl who was in bed waiting for her mother to come to bed, just climbing out of the bathtub from hearing the sound of her house being torn down as the deputies make their way through our home, kicking in the door, pretending there's a bad guy other than themselves. Hard-headed fools, pretending we didn't explain to them a few hours prior that we are being targeted and gang-stalked by a cult that has admitted my little brother into an insane asylum in an attempt to silence him for escaping from their home and reporting them to authorities. I received a phone call from a psychiatrist named Dr. Miller that believed Jackson, the only person in all these years to give him the time of day. After he had been in the hospital 3 or 4 weeks, maybe even longer, Jackson managed to convince Dr. Miller to call his big brother. "He will tell you the truth. He'll tell you that I'm not lying. That is the real reason you've been sent here, officer. That incident and several others is why you're here asking me about my daughter. That is why none of the accusations make any sense and the reports and claims are so extreme and so many, and each claim contradicts the last claim." The police officers became visibly angry when we told them they couldn't come in our home. There was no explanation good enough for them. I informed them that these same accusations and same procedure they did to my Aunt Shelley, who cooperated with police and has not gotten her son back, and it's been over 4 years. I informed the officers that I've called my congressman's office seeking help in our situation, and they had a representative from Internal Affairs for DCFS call me so that I could explain what was going on, and now you guys are here getting mad at me, telling me that if I've done nothing wrong then I have nothing to worry about. As I write this, it's been an entire year and a couple weeks now. The monstrous woman that gave birth to me had my house raided by the police on the 15th of September 2022, the day after my birthday, and was already spreading rumors that I had been killed by police or that I was in a Mexican prison. The fools rushed in anyway, illegally, and there's no way that these cops, who have proven to be criminals themselves, who can't hear the innocent family standing in front of them telling them the truth of other victims, that they could easily look into the validity of what is being said, but they instead become enraged and left only to come back after dark and teach us a lesson for not allowing them to take our daughter, the person we value most in this world, who has been entrusted to us and given to us by God with the privilege and responsibility to protect and to do our best to prepare her to make her own decisions and create the life that she wants to experience. Any person willing to break all the laws the sheriff's department broke, and these cowardly men with families of their own took it upon themselves to violate their badge and violate their own dignity in order to hurt me and my family because some evil people told them a bunch of far-fetched lies. They were mad because they felt disrespected. I respect law enforcement. I can't imagine being a female on a date with one of these officers. They don't take no for an answer. You aren't entitled to do whatever you want. The power you have you didn't earn, and therefore you disrespect yourself and the badge you hide behind, making real cops and real men have to face undeserved hostility from victims and their loved ones because they legitimately don't trust, because of immature, arrogant tough guys that can't recognize that an innocent family is standing before them telling the truth, because they themselves are neither innocent nor honest. After beating me up, they went inside and threw my wife, who was just getting out of the bath, down on the floor and began pretending she was a threat to them. They shouted at her to stop resisting and added injury and insult to a terrible, terrifying and humiliating experience, while my daughter cried for her mum and yelled at these disgusting people to leave her mum alone. My wife is a strong woman who has raised a confident little girl who was born with right and wrong in her DNA. She started training jujitsu when she was around 4 years old. She knows how and has the ability to dominate other kids bigger than her, but she doesn't because she is a good person, who knows and values who she is and therefore is able to value and respect other people. If these thugs are willing to do all this and they have access to drugs all the time, arresting people every day, and after our experience I would venture to guess many of those people are actually innocent. Good cops wouldn't raid my house illegally. Good cops certainly wouldn't beat up the family that lives there, and they certainly would plant evidence in the home. After these thugs wearing badges realized there was no heroin or drugs of any kind being manufactured, and that there was nobody being held against their will, they did what bad cops do: cover up their crimes and go on with their day. They arrested me for possession of drugs supposedly found in one of the rooms upstairs. They refused to look at the lease agreement we had with our tenant that was renting out the second floor of our home. Each step of the way the system has overstepped, and each time it falls on the next person to either look the other way, or do the right thing and stand up for what is right. The same responsibility that I have to my little brother and to my daughter to do the right thing and lead by example and not look the other way and allow injustice and abused. These people that I used to know are very convincing. They've been acting like good Christians their entire lives, and now that they've been caught and are being exposed, they simply do not care who they hurt, how many people they hurt. They have taken on a win at all cost mindset. The officers believed the lies that were told to them. They heard and or read or were told the accusations, and because it was told as if time was crucial, and I do believe that under in some justice is served, their lives will forever be changed for believing those lies and trying to destroy my life and my family because someone said there's a bad man, go get him. Their lies have ruined my childhood and Jackson's childhood. Carla called and got Dr. Miller fired for calling me and allowing me to speak to Jackson. The doctor was informing me of Jackson's extremely long stay. He is a good man and was doing the right thing, and for that he loses his job. He told me he wasn't Jackson's main psychiatrist because he just works on the weekend, and that a woman whose name has escaped me, she was Dr. Miller's supervisor, and they both lost their job for crossing Jackson's foster monster. Dr. Miller was shocked by the words that she spoke and the way that she said them, and how fast his life crumbled in the Alice in Wonderland world he found himself in. How many lives have been sacrificed on the altar of emergency intervention by the Anderson Farm Coven members? Leonard and Janet saved Aunt Mary from her 2 sons, one of which is now dead and the other one is in prison. Mary had filed a report of elder abuse and claimed that her brother Leonard and his wife Janet were trying to steal her money. Mary's sister Sandra said in a Facebook post that Mary wouldn't die fast enough for them referring Leonard and Janet, who live on Anderson Farm along with Carla Hanks and Catherine Baker. Having a master's degree in child psychology does not make you anyone's master, nor will any other title. It won't save you, it will only further incriminate you for detestable things that you've done to children. Adopting and abusing a child that had eligible and capable family members nearby, and they would have gladly taken him in, but you needed someone to break and to release all of your hate into. You mistreated and abused Jackson. He stood up for himself and Lyric, so you drove all the way to Indiana and said he was crazy. These, along with other atrocities you have managed to accomplish and slither back to the safety of your home believing you weren't seen. All of us in different states of shock and awe as we experience and witness one ghastly crime after another, as the pain and horror of what you done is paled only by the empathy we've been so thoroughly trained and groomed to feel for you. Each victim of yours appearing to be drug addicts to onlookers has fueled your confidence as you go all in on this epic self-destructive quest that you and your father have been conducting for decades now, living your life as if it were a children's Christmas play. You are determined that you and only you can play the leading role, so you play the role of mother to your siblings and constantly stir up conflicts against your mother. When your siblings get married and have children of their own, you stir up conflicts against their spouse until they finally get divorced. You step in and help them through the difficulties of being a single mother. If they begin to develop independence, you sabotage them, and as any good Christian would do, you step in and raise their children for them, all the while talking bad about their mother and turning her children against her, adopting children for public recognition. You must play the princess's part just as you have every year since you were born, destroying anyone who dare take their turn. Some kind of tussle is heard and then you come tumbling out from behind curtain. You stand up wearing tiny shoes and stumble to the microphone. A child can be heard crying backstage, but a loud high-pitched noise comes across the speakers as you remove it from the stand, pressing the mic to your lips as you loudly sing both parts of the duet yourself. Your father encouragingly nodding his head in approval and then browbeats your mother and others into another standing ovation. Mentally ill, or evil bitch, regardless of what you choose to call it, I'm here to tell you that your time is up. Time is up for the cowardly man you call your father. Although he's a veteran, and a master mason, and priest, and Janet may be a member of the Order of the Eastern Star and they have everyone fooled, that doesn't change the fact that they are through and through terrible people. Blanket training is where the parent lays a blanket down on the floor. They then put their infant down on the blanket. If the child tries to crawl off the blanket, they hit the child as punishment for leaving the blanket. They also coax the child off the blanket and punish the child for leaving the blanket. Leonard and Janet took all of their children to the middle of the desert and left them there, in the middle of the desert, at a boarding school, in the desert, 4 hours from the nearest town, with nobody there but Carla, their 13-year-old daughter, to protect them. On top of that, they went and rounded up other people's children, girls, and took them to the middle of the desert and left them there. When I spoke with him about David, a married adult man, and Frankie, a 12-year-old girl, Leonard told me that he noticed some flirting going on, but Frankie was looking after their kids, and he didn't feel it was his place to say anything. I'm here to tell you and him that out of all the things you've done, the one thing that you were supposed to do was protect your children from perverts and pedophiles. Why did you feel it was your place to intervene in the lives of others in life-shattering ways but did nothing to prevent the molestation of your children? Everything you did was the wrong thing, punishing your children for being where you put them and acting as though you're surprised or that you found out later. The fact that you put them in that situation, and then punished them for it. You put them in a situation, catch them in the situation that you put them in, then you punish them for being in the situation you put them in. You put them in a situation and punish them for it.